Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point. And if you saw my post in the community page, then you know that I'm having a little issue at home. Well, not really an issue. My daughter works from home and she has relocated her office from her bedroom to my dining room table, and so I don't want to record and then accidentally get somebody's confidential information in my recording. So I'm out in the garage, so if you hear a noise in the background, that is the air conditioned unit running. Okay, but I wanted to give you guys some notes that I was able to pull off of various social media reporters' pages regarding the jury selection process, which you guys know started today in the case of Robert Kelly. And before we get started, CBS Morning News had the audacity to interview Asante McGee. For whatever reason, I don't know. But of course, she is still lying about being in a relationship with Mr. Kelly. She is still, saying that in 2016 she lived with him, that she was physically abused and mistreated. And, she never would say whether or not she wanted him to be found guilty. She would only say that she hopes that whatever happens in the trial leads to him getting the help that he needs. And she says that she knew to get out of the relationship with him because she was the victim of domestic violence. Her husband was abusive, so she was able to recognize the signs and leave quickly. And so you guys know that that's really not what happened. According to her daughter, she actually was a runner for R. Kelly, and she only got that position as a runner or like an assistant, running errands. And then we know I think she was a dancer too, danced at a couple of his concerts. But we know that her connection to him was that she was allegedly dating one of his employees, and he gave her the hookup. So maybe Asante McGee was the only person they could find that was willing to talk to them. I don't know. Then we move over to Court TV, and they basically was talking about the jury selection and how the press wasn't going to be allowed in the courtroom, that they had to sit in a separate room. And so I'm going to go ahead and read to you guys what they posted in their article, and then I will talk about some of the live coverage that they have from the reporter who's actually in the courthouse, so they can be in a separate room. There's 2 overflow courtrooms where they are watching the case or watching the jury selection take place on monitors, but they're not in the actual courtroom. No one is in the courtroom except for the prosecution, the defense, Mr. Kelly, and the people who they are doing jury selection with. So Court TV said jury selection begins Monday in the long-awaited racketeering and trafficking trial in federal court in Brooklyn, New York. The Grammy-winning R&B star is accused of leading what federal prosecutors call an enterprise of managers, bodyguards, and others who allegedly helped him lure women into his circle for illegal activity as he toured the country. Kelly faces 9 counts spanning 3 decades, which I thought was interesting because there's actually like 18 counts in the indictment. And I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that the bribery thing wasn't listed. So when you go into Pacer and it'll list the charges that he's facing, I always think it's interesting that bribery charge is never listed amongst the items that they said are in the indictment. So according to Pacer, there are 18 charges in the indictment, but here we have Court TV saying that there are 9 counts spanning 3 decades. So the counts involve 6 women, 3 of whom that they claim were allegedly under 18 at the time of the offenses. The women are identified as Jane Does in court documents, but some shared their accounts in the docu-lies Surviving R. Kelly, the 2-part Lifetime show, okay, they call it a docu-series, I call it docu-lies, that shined a fresh spotlight on long-standing allegations and generated new leads. Details of the other charged offenses may be familiar to those following the controversy surrounding Kelly's life with his alleged marriage to R&B singer and actress Aaliyah when she was allegedly 15, and his 2008 porn trial, which ended in an acquittal. Kelly has maintained that all his encounters are consensual and that his accusers are seeking to profit off their association with him. He pleaded not guilty to the 9 counts. Once again, it should be way more than 9 counts. Or maybe no, because in Pacer it says 18 counts, but maybe there's 9 sections and then there's sub counts under each section. Maybe that's how they're looking at it. So in court documents, prosecutors said they intend to call Jane Doe number 2, number 3, and number 5, along with former employees and Kelly associates, to describe the alleged enterprise, a critical element in proving the charges. Now, we know Aaliyah is passed away, and so she would be Jane Doe number 1, but wouldn't Jane Doe number 4 have information about the enterprise? And wouldn't Jane Doe number 6 have information about the enterprise? So why are they not listed as people who are going to be called to detail what this alleged enterprise was all about? And then it says Kelly and his associates are accused of targeting fans, men and women, at shows and elsewhere. After Kelly established contact with fans through calls and text messages, the alleged enterprise members arranged for them to travel around the country to visit Kelly at concerts and engage in various activity, including and the creation of pornography. Okay, so Kelly and his associates are also accused of holding some women captive with violence or threats of harm to their families and subjecting them to demeaning and abusive behavior. Kelly is also accused of having sex with Jane Doe number 5 and number 6 without disclosing he has an STD, in violation of California and New York laws. The court sent a preliminary questionnaire to potential jurors on July 26. It asked about attitudes toward the various topics, including STDs, witnesses given immunity from prosecution, the Me Too movement, sex with M's, and celebrity status. The questionnaire said court sessions will last from about 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, with regular breaks approximately every 90 minutes and a 1-hour break for lunch. Prosecutors wish to call additional witnesses to describe allegations for which Kelly is not charged, uncharged acts, to show a pattern of racketeering, including allegations that Kelly had sex with 2 teen boys and filmed the encounters. Kelly's abuse of, underage people, Kelly's use of physical harm and threats of physical harm on his victims, unlawful imprisonment of women, the use of extortionate and coercive tactics to exert and maintain control over his alleged victims and employees, and bribery, all are evidence of the existence of the enterprise, its purposes, means and methods, the pattern of racketeering, and specifically the relatedness of the racketeering acts and the threat of their continuity, prosecutors said in a motion to admit the evidence. As of Friday, Judge Ann Donnelly had not decided whether she will allow the evidence to come in. Kelly is charged under 2 federal statutes typically associated with cases of organized crime: the RICO, Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, and the Mann Act. Kelly's defense argued in the past that prosecutors are using an unconstitutionally broad interpretation of the statutes as an end run around expired statutes of limitations. And I am going to follow up with a second video, but I wanted to get you guys these updates right away. But Thomas Farinella filed a motion to dismiss several charges, and they are going to talk about those expired statutes of limitations that are in this case and why those charges should be thrown out. So while state law prohibits the use of cameras inside the courtroom, Court TV will provide around-the-clock legal... Okay, they're saying while state law, so that must be New York that prohibits cameras in the courtroom. But I also think they don't have recording in federal courthouses either. But they say that they'll be bringing updates. So one of the updates that they brought, and actually it's the only one I've seen so far, but I'm sure they'll come back probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock, where they'll have their analysis of what's going on, probably bring in Steve Greenberg and what have you. And speaking of Steve Greenberg, you guys know that he often, is a commentator on Court TV, and he was using R. Kelly's name, to get him on Court TV. And so one of the commentators on the show, or one of the show hosts, her name is Julie Grant, and so she said that she thinks, she was talking to these 2 attorneys about what they thought about jury selection and the motion that I'm going to read to you guys later on. But she basically said that she thinks that the reason R. Kelly switched attorneys so late in the trial, because they were saying that they don't know how the defense is going to put on a, A1 case defending him, because they've only had a couple of weeks to go over all this evidence and what have you. And she says that she thinks that the reason he found new attorneys is because he's a difficult client to deal with, and that's why there was a switch up in attorneys. So I'm like, so you missed the whole part where Steve Greenberg wasn't meeting with him, hadn't shared any of the discovery or any of that. You just came to the conclusion that he's a difficult client to deal with. Okay, girl, we got you. We know where you stand at. So what else did they have here? Okay, so their person, I didn't write her name down, who was in the courtroom, and I'm going to read you some Twitter feeds, because a lot of the reporters will run out, or while they're sitting there in the room, they'll be tweeting about things that take place. So I'm going to read some of those to you. But the first one is the lady who was at the courthouse from Court TV. And so she gave a brief overview. She said that lawyers were seen going into court with suits and other personal items for R. Kelly to change into, so he's not sitting there in the orange scrubs or the sweatshirt and sweatpants that they had him in previously. It says that he appeared nervous, fidgeting in his chair, couldn't focus. But then when they were bringing the jurors up and asking them questions, that he was making eye contact with the jurors, and that his appearance has changed immensely. He is cleanly shaven and has had a fresh haircut, that his hair is cut very, very, very low to his scalp. He is also wearing glasses now, so we've never seen him in glasses. We've seen him in shades, but not eyeglasses. And then she went on to say that there are hundreds of potential jurors, and it can take several days to get through all of them, and that Judge Donnelly hopes to narrow the number down to 40 people by the end of the week for the defense and the prosecution, to basically start asking questions and using their strike rules. And strike rules is where if you don't want a person to be chosen, you can use a strike. And I'm not sure how many strikes each side has. It varies, from court courtroom to courtroom and jurisdictions, but they'll have so many strikes, and then it's like once they've used up all their strikes, and this is on both sides, then they basically have to accept whoever come in. So they have to be very cautious about using those strikes, but it will be narrowed down to 40 people. And there will be, when it's all over, said and done, after the strike portion, there will be 12 jurors and 6 alternates. So 18 people will be chosen. So they say that the questions range from sex abuse experience to STDs, and these are the questions that they're asking the potential jurors. And let's see, so I'm going to start with Julia Reinstein. So these were her notes on Twitter. She says that break time means I'm back on the phone. Reporters, okay, so I'm going to think that they can't use their phones while they're actually in the courtrooms watching the case unfold. So she has to run out and make her notes. And so it says, reporters have been watching the jury selection remotely in an overflow room. Really hard to hear what's happening. Hopefully they solve tech issues in time for the actual trial, so this case can be reported on fully and accurately. And then she says, anyway, jury privacy is being taken really seriously. No names are being used during selection, just numbers, and nothing that could give away their identities, though they have been asking a lot of them about their hobbies as an opening question for some reason. And then she has Dear Judge Donnelly. Oh, so before I read the rest of her stuff, I forgot I wanted to bring this up to you guys. So what is going on now is called a voir dire. That's the jury selection process. And last week, remember I told you guys the other day that I had a couple of documents that I had meant to bring to you, but I was really tired and I didn't know when I was going to get them to you. So one of those documents was from Thomas Farinella, and he was basically providing Judge Donnelly with additional questions for the jurors. And so there were 6 questions. 1, do you have any views about heterosexual, lesbian, gay, and or bisexual people that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? 2, do you have any views about women who engage in sexual relations with other women that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? 3, do you have any views about women who engage in sexual relations with both men and women that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? 4, do you have any views about men who engage in sexual relations with other men that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? 5, do you have any views about men who engage in sexual relations with both men and women that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? Do you have any views about men and women who engage in sexual relations with multiple people that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? Now, what I found interesting, not so much about the questions, but it got me to thinking how the John Doe number 1 and John Doe number 2 are uncharged acts. Yet, the defense is not denying that those relationships took place. And I thought that that was very interesting. Or maybe they would think that it is a waste of time to deny that they happen. Or it's going to come down the line, because it seems like Thomas Farinella is clicking off these motions left and right. And then another thing, while it's on my mind, and I swear I'll get back to the juror stuff. It's a little bit. It's only going to take me a couple of minutes to get through it. But another thing I found interesting, and I can't remember whose YouTube I was watching. It was a YouTube channel that I came across, or maybe somebody sent it to me and told me to go watch it. But it wasn't somebody that I normally watch, which is why I can't remember the name. But this person pointed out that Nicole Becker hasn't written any motions. And I thought that was interesting, that she has not written any motions. And then I believe it was the same person, or it might have been somebody else, who said that, oh no, it was Dr. Rice. Maybe it was Dr. Rice. I know Dr. Rice said this, that Nicole Becker has actually been involved with this case since 2018, that she didn't come aboard when Steve Greenberg introduced her in 2019. And he might have been the one that said that she hasn't written any motions for the case. And so now I got to think about that video of the person that I don't follow, what it was that they said, because it was important too, and I should have written it down. So anyway, let's continue on with Julia Weinstein or Reinstein and her notes from the trial. She says, to start, the jury pool was asked whether they'd have any issues presuming R. Kelly is innocent unless proven guilty. And 3 people raised their hands and they were immediately dismissed. The jury pool was then asked if any of them had researched or read about the case beforehand, even just Googling it. 2 people said they had, but were still allowed to remain in the pool for further questioning. Jurors were questioned to see if they have any views, experiences that would, I think, I don't know what she tried to write here, that would compromise their impartiality. Naturally, for this case, that can get personal. One was asked about being abused by a family member. Another was asked if she was involved in the Me Too movement. Neither of these people were dismissed based on their answer. And then she does a asterisk that says, one juror, however, said he hadn't initially realized who R. Kelly was and mixed him up with cartoonist R. Crumb. Now, I don't know how he made that connection, but anyway. And so one interesting question, the jurors are all being asked if they have any views on same-sex relations that would affect their impartiality. This question was added after prosecutors filed new accusations that R. Kelly also abused 2 boys. And then we have another guy that looked like I cut his, did I cut his name off? Oh, Insider Haven. And he works for the Business Insider. And so he noted that one female juror at the trial says she supports the Me Too movement and thinks it's unlikely a woman would lie about being the R word, and she was immediately dismissed. Another female juror said as a child she experienced something like what Kelly's charged with. She too was dismissed. So that sounds like the same 2 people that the other lady mentioned, but she didn't say whether or not they were dismissed. So according to Insider Haven, those 2 women were dismissed. And so the judge dismissed one juror wearing bright teal shorts who, when asked if serving on a jury for 4 weeks would present a financial challenge, answered, none other than my wife would have to wait longer to remodel our new kitchen. And then one potential juror said they were a member of the Association of Old Crows. And so he said he was very curious, so he Googled it to see exactly what that was. So the Association of Old Crows is an international nonprofit professional organization specializing in electronic warfare, tactical information operations, and associated disciplines, headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia. Its mission is to advocate the need for a strong defense capability, emphasizing electronic warfare and information operations to government, industry, academia, and the public. So another prospective juror said this morning that he was an aspiring fashion illustrator. When the judge asked about his hobbies, he answered simply YouTube. One other prospective jury is a student majoring in mechanical engineering and says he wants to develop roller coasters, which the Insider Haven thought was pretty cool. And then jury selections for the trial has wrapped up for the day and will continue tomorrow morning. 38 potential jurors were questioned and 13 were dismissed as of now. And then Inner City Press, who is actually in the Southern District of New York, but he's always commenting on what's going on in the Eastern District of New York. He wrote that 18 people were excused for cause, no preemptory challenges, but they aren't even at the point where they would be doing preemptory challenges. That's why I was telling you that once they narrow it down to 40 people, then that's when they'll be doing the challenges. And then he says that 7 people did not appear who were summoned. They were no-shows. 24 prospective jurors have qualified at the voir dire. It could go into August 11th. And then he goes on to reiterate that the press or public is not allowed in the courtroom, and that there is no call-in number, because a lot of times they'll have a audio only call-in number where reporters can call in and listen to cases. They don't have to physically be at the courthouse to report, but Judge Donnelly wouldn't even allow that to take place. So guys, that's it for day 1 in the hearing. I haven't seen or heard about anything else. If anything, other than this type of stuff comes up, then I will drop it in the next video that I am going to do when I read to you all the motion to dismiss. So go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.